Hello and welcome back to another EPC Teardown Guide. Today, we're taking a look at the Latitude 9420. With an 11th Gen i7 processor, this 2021 laptop shouldn't take long to tear down at all. So today, we're going to show you how. Let's get into it. Alright, now let's start by closing this thing up and taking a look at the back. Back here, we have 8 captured Phillips screws in the back cover. On this model in particular, I like to use a normal, just PH0 Phillips bit, but for some of the smaller bits, I like to use a PH00 just in case. Prevent slippage. I'll mention those when we come to it. And now to get the back cover off in the most effective way I found is to use something long and thin and pop right here under the hinge cover. And you'll see that just comes right loose. You'll want to do it there because if we take a look at the front, we've got little hooks that grab right onto the edge here. So if you try and prop it up from there, you could risk damaging those. We'll start as always by disconnecting the battery itself. A simple pull straight out. We will not be removing it at the moment. That will come slightly later. First thing we're actually going to do is going to be removing the cables from this Wi-Fi connection. And there's the slightly smaller screw that I mentioned. So we'll swap over to a smaller bit. Just this one screw holding on this bracket. Looks like it's captured. That's nice. We also have another bracket right here holding another screw. I believe this one's also captured. Yes. And now we've got these cables that are threaded through. Remember when taking off these connectors to try and pull them off directly. Don't try and rip or pull at an angle because you could risk damaging the connectors. So I try and get something right underneath and just pop it straight off. You'll have to be careful about these little metal hooks holding them in place. It's closer to call them clips. They are threaded in throughout the case. And then around the battery. Now I believe we could remove this module down here that they led to. In that case, it is these 2 small Phillips screws on the edges. And then it should just pull right away. Now, before we can get the rest to get the battery out, we should disconnect this speaker cable right up here. Just pull it straight out. Normally I wouldn't pull by the cables, but there's no actual wings on this one to grab it with. Just unthread that. And now for this battery, we have 4 of the screws actually listed on the battery as M2x4s. And then sneakily, this one small battery up at the top labeled M1.6x3. So we'll start with that one using our smaller bit. And then we'll swap back over the larger bit for the other 4. And with that, we should be able to just pull the battery away. It looks like I forgot just this light rib cable for the speaker over here that just passes over the battery. So be careful about that. If it's in that channel, just move it aside. Next up, we're going to be removing the CPU fan over here. Swapping back over to the smaller Phillips double O. Probably a proper name for that. I probably change how I say it every time. Just these 2 screws holding it in. And then make sure we disconnect this cable here. This one has wings, so I can use those to push it out. And then the whole thing just comes out like that. Now let's go ahead and get this LCD/lid off, shall we? I believe we have 2 display connectors right here. They, of course, do 2 separate things, but that's a bit outside the scope of what we're doing now. You'll just pull this up, and then I believe this whole connector comes straight out. So let's use the screwdriver and that little wing right there. Yep, it pops right up. You don't want to grab on this little hinge thing because that will break off. And this is a simple up and out. And now to get the lid off, the safest way to do that, so we're going to open it up, flip it around, and so we put it right on the edge of the table like that. Swap back over to our larger bit, and now we have 3 on each side. And with that, it should just lift right away. And now I believe there's nothing standing in our way from removing the motherboard aside from a few screws and ribbon cables. So let's get started on those. To start with, I believe we have 3 ribbon cables holding this thing in place. You have this one right here, presumably going to the front light connector. And try to remember to close these after you pull the cable out. It's more stable in its locked connection. Another one right here. Going to the touchpad, it looks like. And then we have another speaker cable. Again, no wings on the side, so I have to pull from the cable. I believe, yes, and then we have this connector right up top. I'll grab it from underneath so I can pull it out gently. I'll swap back over to my smaller bit because we have these 3 small screws holding the board in place. We also have these 3 larger screws. Looks like it's holding in the bracket for the USB-C connections over here. Are these captured? Nope, they're just stubborn. And I believe this thing is ready to pull out, but I will make sure to caution that underneath the heat pipe right here, I believe is a connector going to this USB right here. So we should probably take that out. And now I believe we can, yeah, pull that out. And now we can lift the whole board up and away. You can see, we could disconnect that right there, although it would be much easier if the heat pipe wasn't there. But that's connected to the this aluminum heat sink, and underneath of that is just the heat pipe. You could take that off, but generally doing that makes it extremely difficult to put back on. So we won't be doing that today, but you trust me when I say there's nothing too special underneath of there. And that is how you tear apart the Latitude 9420. You can see there's a couple more things if you really wanted to take it apart. I think these speakers are removable. It looks like this touchpad is. Potentially the keyboard is, but those screws are incredibly small. Thank you for watching.
Don't feel like doing a teardown yourself? Have not just one, but hundreds of devices taking up space? EPC is a global leader in the ITAD field, and it's our goal to reduce e-waste and give devices a second chance. Reach out to us today to learn more.